Commander Jake Harrison walked slowly across the metal floor of the UES Liberty. His boots made soft clicking sounds in the quiet hallway. Through the large window, he could see Earth getting smaller and smaller. The blue and green planet that had been humanity's home for millions of years was now just a dot in the black space. Jake pressed his hand against the cold glass. He had been born on Earth. His children had been born there too. Now he would never see it again. None of them would. The plan had worked perfectly, but that did not make leaving any easier. Commander, we are receiving the final reports from all sectors. The voice belonged to Dr. Lisa Martinez. She was holding a small computer tablet in her hands. Her face looked tired but determined. Jake turned away from the window. How many ships made it out? All of them, Lisa said. Every single transport ship, cargo vessel, and military craft. We left nothing behind except empty buildings and turned-off machines. Jake nodded. The evacuation had taken 18 months. To plan, every human colony in the galaxy had been secretly preparing. Every family had been told what to pack and when to leave. The most important part was that no one outside humanity could know what they were doing. What about the research stations? Jake asked. Dr. Peterson's team finished clearing Station Alpha 7 yesterday. They took all the important data and destroyed the rest. Same with the mining operations on Kepler 44-B. Nothing useful was left behind. Jake walked to his command chair and sat down. The bridge was busy with officers checking systems and monitoring their fleet. Hundreds of ships moved together through space like a school of fish. Children pressed their faces against windows, watching the stars. Many of them had never seen space travel before. Any word from Captain Amy Johnson? Jake asked. Lisa checked. Her tablet. She sent a message 20 minutes ago. Her scout ship is at the edge of Council space. No one is following us. The Council monitoring stations are not even paying attention. This was exactly what Jake had hoped for. The Galactic Council treated humans like useful pets. They gave humanity orders and expected them to follow without question. Humans were good at building things and fixing problems, so the Council kept them around. But the Council never respected humans as equals. For 47 years, humanity had been part of the Council. They had built jump gates that let ships travel between stars. They had designed communication systems that connected the entire galaxy. They had solved engineering problems that other species could not figure out. They had even helped end wars between different alien races, but humans were never allowed to make important decisions. When they suggested new ideas, the Council would say maybe later, or we will think about it. When humans asked for better treatment, the Council would remind them to be grateful for being allowed to exist in their space. Jake remembered the meeting that had changed everything. It was 2 years ago in the Great Council chambers on Altera Prime. The human representative, Ambassador Kate Williams, had been trying to speak. She wanted to talk about expanding human colonies to new worlds. Counselor Vextar had interrupted her. Humans should focus on the work they do best, he had said in his cold, mechanical voice. Leave the important decisions to species with more experience. The other council members had made sounds of agreement. Some had even laughed. Kate had sat down without saying another word, but Jake had seen the look in her eyes. It was the same look he had seen in the eyes of humans all across the galaxy. They were tired of being treated like servants. That night, Kate had sent a secret message to human leaders on every world. The message was simple. How long do we keep accepting this? The answer had come back quickly from every corner of human space. Not 1 day longer. Commander, we are getting reports from all 17 colonial worlds, said Lieutenant Danny. Walsh from his station, the evacuation is complete. Every human settlement has been cleared. What about the defense systems? Jake asked. All shut down, sir. The automated systems will keep running for about 6 months, then they will turn off permanently. We made sure to build in that delay so no one would notice right away. Jake smiled for the first time in days. The humans had been very clever about this part of the plan. They had designed most of the galaxy's important systems, but they had never told anyone about the hidden shutdown codes. Every jump gate, every communication relay, every defense platform had a secret switch that only humans knew about. Dr. Lisa Martinez sat down in the chair next to Jake. I keep thinking about my laboratory on New Geneva. Spent 8 years building. That research facility? Now it's empty. Did you leave any important work behind? Jake asked. Nothing that matters. We took all the real discoveries with us. Council can keep the empty rooms and broken equipment. Cross the bridge communications. Officer Helen Carter was talking quietly into her headset. She had been in contact with the other fleet groups all day. Humanity had not traveled together as one giant convoy. That would have been too obvious. Instead, they had split into dozens of smaller groups, each taking a different route to their new destination. Helen, any problems with the other fleets? Jake called out. No, sir. Everything's running smoothly. Captain Rodriguez reports that his convoy is ahead of schedule. The families from the Mars colonies are excited to see their new home. Jake felt a small bit of pride. Humans were good at organizing big projects. They had moved 12 billion people and everything they owned across hundreds of light years without losing a single ship or person. The Council species could never have managed something like this. Commander, incoming message from Admiral Paul Carter. Announced the communication system. Jake pressed a button on his chair. Put him through. Admiral Carter's voice filled the bridge. Jake, I just received confirmation from the last transport group. Colony 7 is empty. We got everyone out. Outstanding work, Paul. How long before the Council notices? Our intelligence suggests it will take at least a week, maybe 2. The Council only checks on human worlds when they need something built or repaired. They are too busy fighting each other to pay attention to us. This was another advantage of being ignored. The Council had never bothered to keep close watch on human activities. They simply assumed that humans would always be there when needed, like a tool in a toolbox. Any regrets about leaving? Jake asked. Admiral Carter was quiet for a moment. I regret that it took us so long to realize we deserved better. But no, I do not regret leaving. My grandchildren will grow up as free people, not as servants. Jake understood that feeling completely. His own daughter was sleeping in the family quarters just down the hall. She was only 6 years old, but she would never have to bow to alien. Masters or apologize for being human. Paul, pass along my compliments to all ship commanders. This has been the most successful military operation in human history, and we did it without firing a single shot. Will do, Jake. See you at the new homeworld. The communication ended. Jake looked around the bridge at his crew. They were all working calmly and efficiently, just as humans always did. But there was something different in their faces now. Looked proud. Dr. Martinez, how long until we reach the rendezvous point? 16 more days of travel, she replied. The new star system is everything our scouts promised. 3 habitable worlds, rich asteroid belts for mining, and completely outside of Council space. Jake nodded. The destination had been chosen carefully. It was far enough away that the Council could never find them, but close enough that humans could build a new civilization quickly. The best part was that they would not be alone. Several other species who had also grown tired of Council rule were already waiting for them. As the U.S. Liberty continued through the darkness of space, Jake felt something he had not experienced in years. Hope. Humanity was finally free to choose its own path among the stars. High Counselor Vexstar stood at the center of the Great Council chamber on Altair Prime. His tall, thin body cast a long shadow across the polished floor. The chamber was built to show the power of the Galactic Council. Massive pillars reached up to a dome that showed the stars above. Representatives from 43 different species sat in curved rows around the speaking platform. But today, something felt wrong. Vexstar had called this emergency meeting because the humans had missed their scheduled report. In 47 years of Council membership, humans had never been late with anything. They were always on time, always prepared, always ready to work. Where is Ambassador Kate Williams? Asked Counselor Quindish from the Crystalline Collective. Her voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. The human delegation was supposed to present their quarterly infrastructure report 3 days ago. Vexstar checked his data pad again. The last communication from any human world had been 8 days ago. It was a routine supply request from Colony 12. Nothing unusual about it. Since then, complete silence. Perhaps they are busy with some urgent project, suggested Ambassador Ralthak of the Verdant Union. His green skin flickered with patterns of light as he spoke. Humans are always building something new. Security Chief Brendai stepped forward. She was a warrior from the Krex Empire, with thick armor covering her massive frame. I sent investigation teams to check on the human colonies. The reports are ... strange. Strange how? Vexstar demanded. The colonies appear to be empty, sir. No life signs detected. But there are no signs of attack or disaster either. The buildings are intact, the power systems are running, but no people. The council chamber became very quiet. 43 species. Had different ways of showing concern, but the feeling was the same. Fear. Counselor Quindish spoke first. That is impossible. There are 12 billion humans spread across 17 worlds. People do not just disappear. My investigation teams are still checking, Brendai continued. But preliminary scans of Earth itself show similar results. The planet's major cities are powered up and functioning, but we detect no human life. Signs anywhere. Vexstar felt something cold in his stomach. He had ruled the council for 30 years. He had seen wars, plagues, and natural disasters. But an entire species vanishing without a trace was something completely new. What about their space stations? Asked Admiral Cortana of the Nexus fleet. Humans operate dozens of research facilities and mining platforms. All empty, Brendai replied. Automated systems are still running, but no crews. It is as if every human in the galaxy simply walked away from their posts at the same time. The chamber erupted in nervous chatter. Representatives whispered too, each other in dozens of different languages. Some of the smaller species looked ready to panic. Vex single quotes Tar raised his hand for silence. There must be an explanation. Humans are not capable of coordinating something this massive without us knowing about it. But even as he said the words, Vexstar began to doubt them. Humans had always been excellent at organization and planning. They had managed construction projects that spanned multiple star systems. They had solved logistical problems that other species thought were impossible. Ambassador Ralthak stood up from his seat. Hi, Counselor. I request permission to share some disturbing information. Speak. 2 days ago, my people noticed that several jump gates in the outer rim were operating on reduced power. We assumed it was routine maintenance. But now I wonder, if the humans shut them down deliberately? More worried voices filled the chamber. The jump gates were humanity's greatest gift to galactic civilization. They allowed ships to travel instantly between star systems. Without them, journeys that took hours would take months. How many gates are affected? Vexter asked. 17 so far, but the number is growing every hour. My engineers cannot override the shutdown commands. Let the systems only respond to human authorization codes. Counselor Quindish made a sound like breaking glass. The mining operations on Kepler 4-4b have stopped producing, and people went to investigate and found the facilities completely abandoned. All the equipment is still there, but it will not respond to our commands. Same problem with the research stations in the Vega system, added another representative. The automated laboratories are running, but we cannot access any of the data. Everything is password protected. Vexstar realized that the situation was much worse than he had first thought. Humans had not just disappeared, they had deliberately locked everyone else out of the systems they had built. Fleet Admiral Cortana stepped forward. Her species was known for their military strength, but she looked worried. Hi, Counselor. We have an even bigger problem. Our fleet communication network is failing. Explain. Humans designed and maintained most of our quantum relay systems. Without their technicians, we are losing contact with ships across the galaxy. As of this morning, we can only communicate with 60% of our fleet. The chamber fell completely silent. The Galactic Council controlled the largest military force in known space. Millions of ships patrolled hundreds of star systems. But if those ships could not communicate with each other, they were just isolated. Groups floating in the darkness. Can we repair the communication systems ourselves? Vexstar asked. Admiral Cortana shook her head. Humans use technology that we do not fully understand. We can operate the systems, but we cannot fix them or build new ones. My engineers estimate that we have maybe 2 weeks before complete communication breakdown. Economic advisor Zephyraeo rushed into the chamber, carrying a stack of data tablets. His small, furry body was shaking with excitement and fear. Hi, Counselor. I have been analyzing the economic impact, he said in his high-pitched voice. The initial reports are catastrophic. How bad? Galactic trade volume has dropped 43% in just 4 days. Human-operated cargo ships have vanished from all major trade routes. The automated systems they built to manage interstellar commerce are shutting down one by one. Zephyriel activated a holographic display in the center of the chamber. It showed trade routes throughout the galaxy. Red lines indicated failed or failing connections. Green lines showed routes that were still working. It was much more red. Then green. The humans did not just operate these systems, Zephyriel continued. They designed them. They built security protocols that only they can override. Without human input, the entire galactic economy will collapse within a month. Vexstar sat down heavily in his chair, was beginning to understand the full scope of what had happened. For nearly 50 years, the Council had treated humans as useful servants. They were good at building things and solving problems, so the aliens had given them more and more responsibility. But no one had bothered to learn how the human systems actually worked. The Council species were warriors, politicians, and merchants. They were happy to let humans handle the boring technical details while they focused on more important matters like territory and power. High Counselor said a small voice from the back of the chamber. It belonged to Representative Tixel from the Trader Guild. There is something else you should know. My people have been monitoring deep space communication channels. We have detected what might be human signals, but they are heavily encrypted and coming from beyond the galactic rim. Beyond the rim? That is impossible. There is nothing out there except empty space. That is what we always believed, Tixel replied, but the signals suggest that humans have traveled much farther than we thought possible. They may have found new worlds that we do not know about. Vexstar stood up and walked to the great window that looked out at the stars. The galaxy had seemed so stable just a week ago. The Council controlled hundreds of worlds. Trade was flowing smoothly. The military kept peace between different species. Now everything was falling apart, and it was all because the humans had quietly walked away. Security Chief Brendi, he said without turning around. I want search fleets sent beyond the galactic rim immediately. Find the humans and bring them back. Sir, that could take months or years, and we do not have the resources for such a large search while our communication systems are failing. Vexter finally understood the terrible truth. The humans had not just left. They had planned this for a long time. They had built hidden weaknesses into every system they controlled. They had created a trap that would slowly strangle the Council, and, worst of all, they had done it without making a sound. Chief Economist Zephyriel stood before the Emergency Council session with shaking hands. His small body was covered in sweat despite the cool air in the chamber. The data tablets he carried contained the worst economic projections in galactic history. High Counselor Vexstar, he began in his squeaky voice. The situation is much worse than we first thought. The galactic economy is not just slowing down, it is collapsing completely. Vexstar leaned forward in his chair. 2 weeks had passed since humanity's disappearance. Each day brought new disasters and failures. Give me the numbers. Trade volume is down 78% and falling every day. The automated cargo systems that humans built are shutting down faster than we expected. Every major trade route between the core worlds and the outer colonies is now broken. Zephyriel activated his holographic display. The image showed the galaxy's economic network. Most of it was now dark red, indicating complete failure. Only a few small areas still showed green or yellow. The Rigel Mining Consortium stopped all operations yesterday, he continued. Their extraction equipment will not respond to non-human commands. The same problem is happening at mining sites across 15 star systems. Counselor Quindish made her wind chime sound of distress. Those mines produce 80% of the rare metals we need for starship construction. Without them, we cannot build new vessels or repair damaged ones. It gets worse, Zephyriel said. The humans did not just operate these facilities. They designed them with security systems that are impossible to bypass. Every time our engineers try to override the controls, the machines shut down completely and will not restart. Admiral Cortana stood up from her seat. My engineers examined the mining equipment on Asteroid Base 7. The humans built fail-safe systems into everything. Someone tries to force access, the machines destroy their own programming. We are locked out permanently. Vexstar felt a cold anger growing in his chest. The humans had planned this betrayal for years, maybe decades. They had built traps into every system they touched, waiting for the right moment to spring them all at once. "What about food production?" asked Ambassador Ralthak. His green skin was flickering with worried patterns. Zephyriel checked another tablet. 17 agricultural worlds have reported crop failures. The automated farming systems are breaking down without human maintenance. The terraforming equipment on 6 colony worlds has completely stopped working. Terraforming equipment? Vexstar had not thought about that problem yet. Yes, sir. Humans designed the atmospheric processors that keep many of our worlds habitable. Without constant maintenance, those worlds will start returning to their original conditions. Some of them will become uninhabitable within months. The council chamber erupted in panicked voices. Representatives from affected worlds began shouting demands and questions. Some blamed the council leadership for allowing humans too much control. Others wanted immediate military action to force the humans back. "Order," Vexstar shouted. "We will solve this crisis through careful planning, not panic." But privately, Vexstar was beginning to panic too. The scope of humanity's integration into galactic civilization was far beyond what anyone had realized. They'd quietly made themselves essential to almost everything that mattered. Security Chief Brendai approached the speaking platform. "Hi, Counselor. We have more urgent problems. Piracy attacks have increased by 400% in the past week." 400%? How is that possible? Without the communication network, our patrol fleets cannot coordinate their movements. Pirates are attacking trade convoys and settlements that used to be heavily protected. They know we cannot respond quickly enough to stop them. Brendai activated her own display. It showed dozens of red warning signals across the galaxy. Each one represented an attack or raid that had happened in the past few days. The Black Star Raiders hit 3 cargo convoys in the Centauri sector yesterday. They knew exactly when and where the ships would be traveling because our patrol schedules are no longer coordinated. "What about our defense stations?" Vexstar asked. "Most of them are offline. Humans designed and maintained the early warning systems that detected approaching threats. Without those systems, pirates can attack almost anywhere without being detected until it is too late." Ambassador Ralthak stood up again. "The Verdant Union is recalling all of our ships to defend our home systems. We cannot protect trade routes when we cannot even protect our own worlds." The representatives began making similar announcements. The Crystalline Collective was suspending all trade agreements. The Trader Guild was demanding military escorts for every cargo ship. Smaller species were talking about leaving the council completely. "If everyone withdraws their ships, the situation will become even worse," Vexter warned. "Then fix it," snapped Counselor Quindish. "Find the humans and force them to repair what they broke." Admiral Cortana shook her head. "My search fleets have been looking for 2 weeks. We have found traces of human passage in several systems beyond the galactic rim, but always old traces. They are staying ahead of us, and they know the territory better than we do." "How can they know territory that we have never explored?" "They must have been sending scout ships into that region for years without telling us. The humans have always been curious about what lies beyond mapped space. We just never thought they would actually go there." Vexstar realized another uncomfortable truth. The Council had never paid much attention to human exploration activities. As long as humans were building and maintaining the systems that everyone else needed, no one cared what they did in their spare time. Economic Advisor Zephyriel cleared his throat nervously. "Hi, Counselor. There is one more thing. My analysts have been reviewing human trade records from the past 5 years. We found some very suspicious patterns." "What kind of patterns?" "Humans have been secretly stockpiling rare materials and advanced technology. They claimed it was for research projects, but the quantities are far too large for any research program. They were preparing for something big." "See, preparing for this," Vexstar said grimly. "Yes, sir, and there is more. We found evidence that humans have been in contact with several non-council species in the Outer Rim. Species that we have always considered too primitive or too distant to matter." Ambassador Ralthak's skin patterns became very bright. "Are you saying the humans have been building alliances behind our backs?" "This is exactly what I am saying. The trade records show regular shipments of advanced technology to at least 6 non-council species. In exchange, those species have been providing raw materials and what looks like territorial agreements. The implications hit everyone at the same time. Humans had not just run away to hide in empty space. They had been building a new civilization with species that the Council had ignored or rejected. They have been planning to replace us, Vexstar said quietly. Security Chief Brendai nodded. The evidence supports that conclusion. Humans spent decades learning everything they could about our military capabilities, our economic systems, and our political weaknesses. Then they built relationships with species that have reasons to dislike the Council. What species? Vexstar demanded. Wanderer clans who we refused membership because they are nomads, the Forge Worlds who we rejected because their technology is different from ours, the independent systems who left the Council 20 years ago because they said we were too controlling. Vexstar understood the full picture now. Humans had not just abandoned the Council. They had been building an alternative to the Council. They had been preparing to offer other species a better deal than what the Council provided. Sir, said a nervous voice from the back of the chamber, we are receiving reports of system failures on the core worlds. The power grid on Altera Prime is becoming unstable. The atmospheric processors on 3 different Council worlds are showing warning signs. Vexstar closed his eyes. The humans had built those systems too. Everything that kept the galaxy's most important worlds running depended on human engineering and maintenance. The Great Galactic Council, which had ruled hundreds of worlds for thousands of years, was slowly dying, and the humans had killed it without firing a single shot. Explorer Captain Jindar stared at the star charts on her command screen. The CSS Discovery was 3 months into the deepest space exploration mission in galactic history. Her crew of 24 volunteers from 6 different species had left Council space behind to search for humanity's new home. Navigation Officer Telemon. What is our position? She asked. Telemon looked up from his instruments. His blue-scaled face showed exhaustion and worry. We are 47,000 light-years beyond the galactic rim, Captain. We have traveled farther from home than any Council vessel in history. The ship's bridge was quiet, except for the steady hum of the engines. Everyone knew they were on a desperate mission. The Galactic Council was falling apart, and finding the humans might be their only chance for survival. Any signs of human activity in this system? Jindar asked. Science Officer Korabeth shook her head. Her species had excellent sensors, but even they had limits. I am detecting traces of quantum drive signatures, but they are at least 2 weeks old. Someone passed through this system recently, but they are long gone. This was the same pattern they had found in 12 other star systems. Evidence that humans had been there, but always too late to catch them. Though the humans were moving fast and covering their tracks well. Communications Officer Darwin, are you picking up any signals? Darwin adjusted his equipment carefully. Species had the best hearing in the galaxy, able to detect radio signals across vast distances. There are faint transmissions coming from somewhere ahead of us, but they are heavily encrypted. I cannot understand what they are saying. Are you certain they are human signals? The transmission patterns match human communication protocols. But the encryption is far more advanced than anything in our databases. They have been developing new technology that we know nothing about. Captain Jindar stood up and walked to the main view screen. It showed the endless darkness of space beyond the galaxy's edge. Somewhere out there, 12 billion humans were building a new civilization. But space was vast, and her small ship could search for years without finding them. Navigation. How long can we continue this search? She asked. Telemon checked his supplies readout. We have enough food and fuel for 3 more months, Captain. After that, we must return to Council space or risk being stranded out here. 3 months, Jindar repeated. The Council expects us to find an entire civilization in 3 months. Captain, said Engineer Nixara from her position at the back of the bridge, our ship is not equipped for this kind of long-range exploration. We are having problems with systems that humans designed. Without human technicians, we cannot repair everything that breaks. Jindar nodded grimly. Even on this search mission, they were reminded of how much they depended on human expertise. The Discovery's navigation system had been upgraded with human technology just 2 years ago. Now that technology was failing, and no one on the ship knew how to fix it. Science Officer. What have we learned about human movements in this region? Korabeth brought up a holographic display showing their search pattern. The humans did not scatter randomly. They're following a planned route toward something specific. All the traces we have found point in the same general direction. Toward what? Unknown. But they seem to be heading for a region that our star charts show as completely empty. Either they have found something that we missed, or they have better information than we do. Darwin suddenly looked up from his communication station. Captain, I am receiving a new signal. It is much stronger than the others. Human? I believe so. The signal is coming from a system about 6 light years ahead of us. But Captain, this transmission is not encrypted. It is broadcasting in the open. Jindar felt her first hope in weeks. What does it say? Darwin listened carefully to his equipment. It appears to be a repeating message. The signal says, Council. Vessel CSS Discovery, you have been following our trail for 3 months. We know you were there. The bridge became completely silent. Everyone stared at Darwin in shock. They know we are here? Jindar asked. The message continues, Darwin said your mission is understood, but it is pointless. You cannot force us to return. However, we are willing to talk. Proceed to the coordinates that follow this message. Jindar looked at her crew. They were all thinking the same thing. This could be a trap the humans might be leading them into. An ambush or simply trying to waste their time. Navigation, plot a course for those coordinates, she ordered. Telemon worked at his station for several minutes. Captain, the coordinates point to a star system that does not appear on any of our charts. According to our maps, there should be nothing there. How long to reach it? 18 hours at maximum speed. Jindar made her decision. Take us there. We did not come this far to turn back now. The CSS Discovery changed course and accelerated toward the unknown system. For 18 hours, the crew prepared for whatever they might find. They checked their weapons, reviewed their diplomatic protocols, tried to imagine what humanity's new home might look like. When they finally arrived at the coordinates, what they found was beyond anything they had expected, Captain said. Korabeth, in a voice full of amazement. I am detecting a massive artificial structure. It appears to be some kind of space station, but it is enormous. The size readings cannot be correct. What do you mean? The structure is over 2,000 kilometers long and 800 kilometers wide. It is larger than most moons. Jindar stared at the view screen. The station was clearly human in design, but it was far beyond anything humans had ever built. In council space, millions of lights covered its surface, and hundreds of ships were docked at various ports. How could they build something this large so quickly? She asked. They could not, said engineer Nixera. This station has been under construction for years, maybe decades. The humans have been planning this for much longer than we thought. Darwin received another transmission. Captain, we are being hailed by the station. They are requesting permission to come aboard. They want to come aboard our ship. No, Captain. They are offering to let us come aboard their station. The message says they are sending a shuttle to escort us to a docking bay. Jindar watched as a small craft emerged from the massive station. It was sleek and fast, clearly built with advanced technology. The shuttle approached the Discovery and took position alongside them. Captain, said a new voice over the communication system. The accent was unmistakably human. This is Captain Ben Parker of the New Earth Alliance. Welcome to Haven Station. We've been expecting you. Expecting us? Jindar replied. We've been monitoring council communications for months. We knew someone would eventually come looking for us. Are you ready to see what humanity has built? Jindar looked at her crew one more time. It found the humans, but the situation was completely different from what they'd expected. The humans were not hiding in fear or struggling to survive. They had built something magnificent. We are ready, she said. The shuttle guided the Discovery to a docking bay that could have held 50 ships their size. As they approached, Jindar could see thousands of humans working on the station's exterior, building new sections and improving existing ones. Science officer, are you detecting any other species? Korabeth ran her sensors across the station. Yes, Captain. I am reading life signs from at least 12 different species. Many of them are not in our databases. 12 species? And Captain, I am also detecting something else. There are at least 30 more stations like this one in nearby systems. This is not just a single outpost. The humans have built an entire civilization out here. As the Discovery docked with Haven Station, Gindar realized that the Council's search mission had failed before it even began. They had come to find lost humans and bring them home. Instead, they had found a new galactic power that had been growing in secret for years. The humans had not run away. They had graduated. High Counselor Vextar stood alone in his private chamber, staring at the message that had just arrived. 6 months had passed since humanity's disappearance, and the Galactic Council was dying. Half the member species had already withdrawn from the Alliance. The other half were fighting each other for what resources remained. The message was from Captain Mo Jindar of the exploration ship Discovery. She had been missing for 4 months during her search for the humans. Most council members assumed her ship had been lost in the empty space beyond the galaxy. But now, she had returned with news that would change everything. Vextar read that report again, trying to understand what it meant. Jindar had found the humans, but they were not the same people who had left council space. They had built a new civilization with technology far beyond anything the council possessed. They had formed alliances with dozens of species and created a society based on cooperation instead of domination. Computer call? An emergency council session, Vextar said to the room's automated system. His voice sounded tired and defeated, too. Hours later, the remaining council members gathered in the Great Chamber. Only 23 species were still represented. The others had either left the council or were too busy dealing with local crises to attend meetings. Fellow counselors, Vextar began, Captain Jindar has returned from her search mission. What she found will shock you. Jindar stepped forward to address the assembly. She looked different from when she had left, stronger somehow and more confident. Honored counselors, I found the humans. They have established a massive civilization beyond the galactic rim. They call it the New Earth Alliance, and it includes over 40 different species. Counselor Quindish made her wind chime sound of surprise. 40 species? That is impossible. We only know of 7 species in that region of space. That is what we thought, Jindar replied. But the humans have been exploring and making contact with species that we never knew existed. They have been doing this for decades, while fulfilling their duties to the Council. Admiral Cortana leaned forward in her seat. What is their military strength? Can we force them to return? Jindar shook her head. Admiral, their technology is far ahead of ours. They have developed new types of faster-than-light travel, weapon systems we cannot understand, and defensive shields that could stop our entire fleet. But more importantly, they do not want to fight us. Then why will they not return? Demanded Ambassador Ralthak. Because they have built something better, Jindar said simply. I spent 2 weeks on their main station. I saw how they live, how they work together, how they solve problems. Every species is treated as an equal partner. There are no servants and no masters. Everyone contributes what they can and receives what they need. Vextar felt a cold knot in his stomach. Did they give you any message for the Council? Yes, High Counselor. They said the door remains open for any species that wants to join their alliance. Well, they will not return to the old system of rulers and subjects. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Several representatives shouted that the humans should be forced to return. Others demanded military action against the New Earth Alliance. A few suggested negotiating for the return of essential technologies. Order, Vextar called out. Captain Jindar, did they make any specific demands? No demands, sir. But they did make an offer. They're willing to share their technology and knowledge with any council species that agrees to reform their government and society. They want us to become partners instead of rulers. Partners with our former servants? Quindishes? Her voice was full of outrage. That is unacceptable. Is it? Jindar asked quietly. High Counselor, in the 6 months since humanity left, how many worlds have we lost? How many species have abandoned the Council? Many systems are now controlled by pirates and raiders. Vextar did not want to answer, but the numbers were impossible to hide. 37 worlds have become uninhabitable due to failed terraforming systems. 14 species have left the Council. 86 star systems are no longer under our control. And how many of our own people are hungry because the agricultural systems have failed? Jindar continued. How many ships are stranded because the jump gates no longer work? How many colonies have been abandoned because we cannot maintain? The chamber became very quiet. Everyone knew the answers to those questions, and none of them were good. Economic advisor Zephyriel stood up slowly. High Counselor, I have been analyzing our situation for months. The Council cannot survive in its current form. We have 3 options: reform our system, join the Human Alliance, or face complete collapse. There is a 4th option, said Admiral. Cortana grimly. We can fight them and take what we need by force. Jindar turned to face the Admiral. I saw their defensive capabilities. We would lose that war, and lose it badly. The humans have learned from every mistake we made during their time in the Council. They're prepared for any military action we might take. So we just surrender, Cortana demanded. We adapt, Jindar replied. The humans offered to help us transition to a new system of government. They have experience managing large, diverse civilizations. They know how to make it work. Walked to the great window and looked out at the stars. The galaxy had seemed so stable when he first became High Counselor. The Council controlled trade, kept the peace, and maintained order across hundreds of worlds. Now that order was crumbling, and it was all because they had taken their most valuable members for granted. Captain Jindar, he said without turning around, what exactly are the humans proposing? They want to help us create a new galactic government based on cooperation instead of domination. Every species would have an equal voice in decisions that affect them. Resources would be shared fairly, and no one would be forced to serve others. And in return, we would become part of their alliance. We would share our knowledge and resources with them, just as they would share with us. We would work together to explore new regions of space and make contact with other civilizations. Ambassador Relthek's skin patterns flickered with confusion. But who would be in charge? Someone must lead. Leadership would be shared, Jindar explained. Decisions would be made by councils representing all member species. The humans have proven that this system works. Their alliance has grown from 12 billion people to over 200 billion in just 6 months. Counselor Quindish made a sound like breaking crystal. You are asking us to give up thousands of years of tradition. Council has always been ruled by the strongest species. And where has that tradition brought us? Jindar asked. Sitting in a nearly empty chamber, discussing the collapse of our civilization. Maybe it is time to try something new. Vexstar turned back to face the assembly. I have made my decision. We will send a delegation to the Human Alliance to discuss terms for joining their system. High Counselor, you cannot be serious, Admiral Cortana protested. I am completely serious. We can either adapt to the new reality or become extinct. Those are our only choices. 3 days later, a small council fleet departed for human space. They carried a message of surrender disguised as a request for negotiations. Vexstar was not aboard those ships. He had resigned his position and chosen to remain on Altair Prime to help maintain order during the transition as the ships disappeared into hyperspace. Vexstar received a final message from the Human Alliance. It was brief and unsigned, but the meaning was clear. Welcome to the future. We are glad you decided to join us. The Great Galactic Council was dead, but from its ashes, something better was about to be born. The humans had shown everyone that there was a different way to live among the stars. Now it was time to learn how to build it together.